I was stirring the sauce, just standing there in the kitchen like any other night. The air smelled like garlic and rosemary, and the soft hum of the fridge was oddly calming. Then I heard it, his laugh. It wasn't the sweet kind he used with me. It was sharper, confident, almost arrogant. My hands froze mid-motion. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but my gut told me to listen. And when I did, everything changed. She'll stay. She always does. That's the thing with her, she thinks. Silence equals strength. His voice hit me like a punch to the chest. I blinked a few times. Not sure I'd heard right, but I had. Oh, I had. I wasn't just hearing words. I was hearing the truth come out, loud and clear. He really believed I was that weak, that predictable, like I was nothing but a safe bet. He could disrespect and still keep around. I was nothing to him. I held on to the edge of the counter as if it would keep me from collapsing. My mind raced while my heart dropped. He thought I would stay. He thought no matter what he did, I'd always come back, like a fool too afraid to leave. That moment shattered something inside me. Not just the illusion, but the woman I used to be. He broke me first. That night, I finally understood what betrayal sounds like. It doesn't always come with shouting or tears. Sometimes it comes disguised as laughter behind your back from the person you trusted the most. It's a quiet dagger, and mine went straight through the heart. But I didn't burst in and confront him. No, my silence was my answer. I kept stirring the sauce. I smiled when I served him dinner. That's when the shift happened. In that very silence, I started planning everything. Because now I had clarity. Because now I had motive. I knew then I had to find the messages. I needed proof. Not for him. He already knew what he was doing. But for me, to see it with my own eyes. To feel it burn. To confirm what I already felt in my bones. And when I found them, oh, he never saw it coming. She cried in silence. That's how most stories of betrayal begin, right? But this time, the silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. I wasn't about to let a man who mocked my loyalty walk away untouched. He planned his game. Now I'd plan mine. He had no clue what I was capable of. While he laughed, I watched. While he lied, I listened. And while he felt safe, I prepared. There's something powerful about a woman who's been broken and chooses to rebuild in silence, because when she finally leaves, it's never quiet. It's an earthquake. And trust me, he was about to feel the aftershock of underestimating me. It didn't take long before Fabian started leaving things at my place. First a toothbrush, then a drawer, then suddenly he had his own shelf in the fridge. It felt sweet at first, like we were building something real. I thought love was supposed to move fast when it was right, and for a while, I let that illusion wrap around me like a warm blanket. I had no idea it would later suffocate me. 8 months in, he moved in officially. No big talk, no discussion. It just happened, and I let it. I told myself we were just flowing, but deep down, there was a whisper inside me that said something didn't feel right. I ignored it. I silenced my own instincts. I chose love over logic, hoping I wouldn't regret it. The red flags weren't loud. They were quiet, subtle, like how he always asked about my dad's business, but never about my day, or how he joked about how nice it must be to never worry about rent. At first I laughed it off, but those comments, they stuck. They started to feel like darts covered in sugar. He didn't work much. Said he was between projects, but weeks turned to months, and I noticed he always had excuses. The economy's trash, he'd say, or I'm just not meant for a 9 to 5. But somehow, he never missed a night out. He never skipped buying expensive drinks with my money, and slowly, I felt more like a provider than a partner. One afternoon, I came home early and heard him on the phone with a friend. Man, she's got it made. Her dad owns half the city. I'm not going anywhere. He laughed like it was a joke, but it didn't sound like one to me. I stood frozen, my fingers clenching the grocery bag. That's when it hit me. I was nothing to him. Still, I said nothing. My silence was my answer. I told myself he was stressed, tired, venting, but that was a lie I crafted to keep my heart from shattering too soon. I wanted to believe that love would be enough. That being there, being loyal, being kind, would make him see my worth, but he never did. The worst betrayal is the one you allow, hoping it'll get better. I started feeling like a guest in my own life. He'd take the car without asking, use my name for deliveries, borrow money and never pay back. Each act chipped away at who I was, and I let him. Because I thought silence meant strength, because I thought he'd change, but I was deceived. And that deception didn't feel like a sudden blow. It felt like erosion, slow, relentless, quiet, until there was barely anything left of the woman I used to be. He thought I would stay. That was his biggest mistake, because every time he dismissed me, I started writing a new version of the story in my head, and in that version, I wasn't the one begging for love. There was a shift in the air, something subtle, like when a storm's coming and the sky pretends it's still sunny. Fabian started acting distant, distracted. His phone became glued to him, like it held the secrets of the universe. And maybe it did. I wasn't the jealous type, but when someone starts hiding things, your heart knows before your mind does. He'd laugh quietly during late-night texts, then flip the screen down the second I walked in. "Just memes," he'd say, but his eyes never met mine when he said it. I wasn't stupid. I just wasn't ready to accept the truth. I'd lie awake next to him, staring at the ceiling, wondering who made him smile like that, because it sure as hell wasn't me anymore. I found the messages by accident, or maybe fate was tired of watching me play. Dumb. One day, his phone lit up while he was in the shower. I saw a name I didn't recognize, and a heart emoji. My hands trembled as I picked it up. And there it was, flirtation, secrets, conversations that erased me completely. He broke me first, and he didn't even care. The messages weren't just flirty, they were strategic, like he was building a backup life, just in case I ever dared to stand up for myself. One girl said, "She doesn't even know, does she?" And he replied, "She thinks I'm just busy." LOL, that laugh, that casual cruelty. It stayed with me. It burned. I didn't cry right away. I couldn't. She cried in silence, and that she was me. I didn't confront him right then. I wanted more. I started watching him, recording calls, taking screenshots. I turned my pain into proof, and, when I showed him the proof later, he didn't know what to say. Because deep down, he thought I would stay. He bet on my silence. He never saw it coming. My silence wasn't weakness. It was my weapon. I smiled through dinner, kissed him goodnight. I even laughed at his stories, all while collecting every lie he ever told. I was building a case, and he kept feeding it. One careless call, one whispered message at a time. He used to brag to his mom saying, "She's comfortable, good girl, loyal," like I was a pet, something to keep around for convenience. That call, I recorded it. I played it back until I memorized the tone in his voice, the one that stripped me of value, of dignity, of everything I thought love was supposed to be. He betrayed me in broad daylight. I was deceived over breakfast, kissed with lies before bedtime. But the worst part? Nobody believed her, that version of me who wanted to scream. So I learned to whisper with strategy, to gather my strength in silence. What he didn't realize is that the quiet ones always come back louder. And as I pieced together the truth, I wasn't just building a case. I was becoming someone new, someone ready for the moment it would all explode. The night of the family dinner felt like any other, except it wasn't. My gut twisted the moment Fabian's parents walked through the door, all smiles and hollow compliments. I'd been holding on to that recording like it was a grenade with no pin, and tonight I was going to let it tick quietly while I watched the whole room pretend. Fake laughter, forced hugs, a family built on betrayal. We sat down at the table, passing dishes and small talk. Fabian was charming, as always, especially when there was something to hide. But then he laughed, that same hollow, smug laugh I'd heard on the call. And that's when I knew what was coming, because he didn't see me as a partner. I was nothing to him, just a vessel, a benefit, a cover story that made him look good. I held my fork tightly when he said it, right in front of his parents. "She's comfortable. I hit the jackpot with her dad's money. As long as I don't knock her up, I'm golden." His parents chuckled like it was some inside joke. And just like that, the room spun. I felt myself leave my body for a moment. My silence was my answer. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just nodded, smiled, and passed the potatoes. In that moment, I understood everything. This wasn't love. This was a transaction. I was deceived from the beginning. He never cared. He just performed. And now, surrounded by people who cheered. For his manipulation, I realized he'd planned it all. Every compliment, every touch, every "I love you," all scripted, all hollow. But here's the thing about being underestimated. It gives you power. While they laughed, I watched. I listened, and inside, something clicked, something cold. I wasn't going to beg for decency anymore. He thought I would stay, sweet, quiet, forgiving. Oh, he was wrong, so wrong, because she finally left, and I was about to become her. After dinner, I served dessert with the calm of a woman holding a loaded truth. I looked him in the eyes and asked how his mother was doing, the same mother who advised him not to get me pregnant, the same woman who giggled at my expense. I wanted him to squirm, but he didn't even flinch. That's when I knew. People like him don't feel guilt. Only exposure works. I carried that pie to the table like it was a crown. I smiled wide, sweetly, as if nothing in the world was wrong. Because when betrayal's in the room, you don't yell, you let it choke on its own smugness. I thought about standing up and playing the recording right there. But no, not yet. The trap was set, but the stage wasn't ready. He looked at me like I was clueless, like he'd gotten away with it all. But deep down, I knew the truth was a knife, and soon it would cut through every lie he ever told. I was patient, precise. I didn't need to scream to be heard. I just needed the right moment. And it was coming. She exposed him, not with chaos, but with grace. And as I collected the empty plates that night, I knew something had shifted forever. I wasn't the same woman who had fallen for a fantasy. I was someone who knew exactly what was about to happen next. I went back into the kitchen and just stared at the pie. Apple cinnamon, his favorite. How ironic. I had baked it hours earlier with so much care, before I found the messages, before the truth came out. Now it felt like I was icing poison with whipped cream. But still, I plated it, slowly, deliberately, one slice at a time, breathing in silence, like a warrior sharpening her sword. They were laughing in the other room. I could hear them. Him, his mom, his dad, all basking in their little circle of lies. And that's when it hit me. He broke me first. All those nights I cried in silence, all the moments I questioned my worth, it was never because I was weak. It was because I trusted someone who didn't deserve my softness. And that night, I stopped being soft. I walked out holding that pie like it was part of a performance. My face was the mask of calm, my eyes the only part still telling the truth. He never saw it coming, not even when I placed the slice in front of him and smiled like the perfect girlfriend. That smile, it was a lie, just like his love, just like everything we'd built. I sat down, folded my hands, and watched him eat, bite after bite, with no idea that the walls around him were about to collapse. I imagined pressing play on the recording right there, letting every word echo through the dining room like a siren of justice. But not yet. She planned it all, and I had to be patient. Revenge, real revenge, is quiet before it's loud. He leaned over and whispered something smug, something about staying at his place that night. I just nodded, because this time, my silence was my answer. He thought I was playing along, but really, I was buying time. Time to make sure every detail was perfect. No loopholes, no mercy. The table was full of stories, fake memories, and carefully rehearsed affections. I played along, offering wine refills, laughing at the right moments. It was surreal, sitting beside someone who had orchestrated my betrayal with such ease. I was nothing to him, and that was his biggest mistake, because now I had nothing left to lose. Every time he touched my arm or looked my way, I saw it all. The betrayal, the manipulation, the convenience he spoke of. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and throw that pie right in his face, but I didn't. I stayed still, breathing through the storm inside me. That's how women survive. That's how she finally left. With dignity, not drama. I kept glancing at his mother, wondering how she could laugh after hearing what her son said about me. Nobody believed her. The version of me that knew things, that saw through things. They saw the cheerful hostess, not the woman holding the fuse. And that's what made me powerful. They were blind, and I was wide awake. As the night ended, I cleared the table, kissed everyone goodnight, and smiled one last time. A long, soft smile that said, I know everything. And the moment I closed that door behind them, I leaned against it and let out the breath I'd been holding. The game had begun, and soon he'd beg her to come back. But the version of me that used to cry no longer existed. Because once you put on the mask and carry the pie with a poker face, you realize the next move is everything. The moment I played the recording for my parents, everything changed. My dad's hands clenched. My mom didn't say a word at first. She just stared at the screen like she was watching a car crash in slow motion. I had never seen them look like that before. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel alone. I felt protected, like maybe, just maybe, I didn't have to carry this war by myself anymore. They didn't scream. They didn't ask me how I could have let it get this far. They just listened. My mom reached over, held my hand, and whispered, "He broke you first." My dad stood up and walked into his office, and I knew instantly that Fabian had just triggered something much bigger than my heartbreak. He had activated a force that didn't forgive betrayal. Within hours, my dad was on the phone. Leases were being rewritten. The car Fabian drove, under my name, was being reclaimed. My mom contacted the family lawyer, sent over the audio, and started the documentation to legally remove him from anything tied to me. The truth came out, and with it came action. Immediate, surgical, precise action. It was almost scary how efficient they were. My mom had notes, folders, printouts. My dad worked like a general in a silent war. Every financial thread Fabian had latched onto was being sliced away. No more favors, no more free rides. And when my dad found out that Fabian's sister was working for one of his business partners through nepotism, he made one phone call. That favor was done. I watched it all unfold like I was in a movie. He thought I would stay, thought I'd be weak and paralyzed. But he forgot I come from people who don't fold under pressure. They fold pressure into action. And I finally understood that revenge doesn't always come with fire. Sometimes it arrives dressed in calm, in the form of a parent reclaiming their child's dignity. Fabian started to sense something. He texted, called, sent little voice notes pretending everything was normal, but I didn't answer. Not once. My silence was my answer. And when he showed up at the house the next day, all smiling and casual, my dad greeted him at the door, not with words, but with a legal notice and 2 security guards behind him. Fabian was speechless. The look on his face, shocked, betrayed, confused, was almost laughable. He kept asking, "Why are you doing this?" And all I could think was, she planned it all. I didn't need to scream or cry. I just needed to stay still long enough for him to bury himself with his own lies. And he did, beautifully, without even knowing. That night, I sat with my mom on the porch. She told me something I'll never forget. "You inherited your strength from me, but your strategy, that's your own." I cried. Not the same tears as before. These were tears of cleansing, because I wasn't just leaving him. I was rebuilding myself, piece by piece, with people who actually cared whether I lived or shattered. It's funny how nobody believed her. The version of me that was always doubting, always hurting, but now they would. Because now I had proof. I had a team, and I had a plan. One Fabian wouldn't see until it was too late. And oh, it was far from over, because the real dismantling hadn't even started yet. The day we packed up his things, I didn't feel rage. I felt release. Every shirt I folded, every shoe I tossed into a box, was a memory I refused to carry anymore. My dad supervised everything, and my mom kept me steady. I remember holding one of his watches and thinking, how did I ever let someone so small take up so much space in my heart? We boxed his life in silence, and silence again became my weapon. No screaming, no dramatic scenes, just calculated steps. We labeled everything and left the boxes by the gate. I didn't want a single thing of his in my house, not even the scent of him. He betrayed me, and I was reclaiming every corner he once invaded. When his parents were contacted to pick up the boxes, they acted offended, as if I was the problem. I almost laughed. The same people who chuckled when he mocked me were now demanding respect. My dad didn't even flinch. He played them the recording, and just like that, the truth came out, and their fake concern crumbled. His mother turned pale. His father tried to act shocked, but I could tell. They knew. They always knew. They were part of it. Stories of betrayal like mine don't happen in isolation. They're cultivated in homes where deception is normalized, and I was done being polite about it. We changed the locks, removed his name from everything, even had his gym membership canceled. Petty? Maybe, but this was war. He never saw it coming. The precision, the speed, the lack of second chances. That's what scared him most. Not that I left, but that I did it without flinching. And when we contacted his employer, it turned out he'd lied there too. Said we were engaged. Said my father was going to invest. Lies stacked on top of lies. I was deceived, and now his credibility was falling apart, one layer at a time. It was like watching a tower collapse from the inside. My favorite part? The moment I sent him the screenshot. Just one. Of the group chat where he called me a spoiled asset. No message, no context. Just, so I showed him the proof. He responded with a string of missed calls. I let them ring, one by one. My silence hit harder than any scream ever could. He started posting on social media, painting himself as the victim. Said I overreacted. Said I was sensitive. But I didn't take the bait. I stayed quiet. Because when you're holding the truth, you don't have to scream. It speaks for itself. And my silence was my answer. I looked around my house that night and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. For the first time, I could breathe without fear, laugh without guilt, exist without shrinking. The air was different. The shadows were gone. But deep down, I knew this was just phase 1. Because when you strip a liar of his stage, he gets desperate. It started with texts, dozens of them. At first they were, "I'm sorry, please talk to me," and "you misunderstood." But they quickly turned into rage. He called me cold, ungrateful, even evil. One message said, "You were nothing," before me. I just stared at the screen and whispered, I was nothing to him, and now I see it. Then came the voicemails, his voice cracking, begging, then yelling. He said I was ruining his life, destroying his reputation. He said he still loved me, but his tone dripped with control, not remorse. He broke me first, and now that I'd stopped. Breaking for him, he couldn't handle it. He showed up at my work, just stood there, watching through the glass. My coworkers knew something was wrong. They offered to walk me to my car. I said no. I walked out with my head high, my spine straight, my fear tucked behind clenched fists. He didn't say a word, just watched, like a ghost haunting what he used to own. Then he started contacting my friends, old college roommates, distant cousins. He told them I had mental health issues, that I was unstable, that I planned it all, to ruin him. Some believed him. That part hurt, but most didn't. They knew me. They knew I wouldn't burn down a house I built from love unless it was already rotting inside. A week later, I found a note slid under my door. No envelope. Just 3 words. Come back home. The handwriting made me sick. It was his, but shaky. I could feel his desperation. He didn't miss me. He missed the power. He missed the comfort of knowing I'd stay. But not this time, because he thought I would stay, until I didn't. The next morning, my neighbor Orlando caught him outside, pacing, talking to himself. He tried to follow me when I left for errands. That's when I realized this wasn't heartbreak. This was obsession. I reported it, and I started documenting everything, every message, every voicemail, every sighting. Because when she was captured, the paper trail mattered, and I wasn't going to be unprepared. One night, I heard tapping at my window. Light at first, then louder. I turned off the lights, stayed still, and called my dad. He arrived in minutes with a flashlight and a bat, but Fabian was gone, just a shadow fading into the night. That was the last straw. The next day, I filed for a restraining order. Enough was enough. He fought it, claimed he was just trying to reconnect. The judge didn't buy it. The messages, the stalking, the manipulation, it painted a clear picture, a man unraveling because his mask was gone, and she exposed him. That's what this was really about. The mask, the image, the illusion of being the good guy. I installed cameras, changed my routines, stopped going out alone. It felt like prison sometimes, but it also felt like safety. My parents and Julia helped me create a new rhythm, a new normal. We learned to laugh again, but never too loud, never too long, because I still jumped at shadows. Betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it rewires your nervous system. But even in the darkness, I could feel something changing. Not in him, but in me. I was becoming someone new, someone unafraid of being alone, someone who didn't beg to be chosen. Because now I knew what I was capable of, and that terrified him more than anything else. The day the restraining order was approved, I sat in the parking lot and cried. Not because I was sad, but because I finally felt a sliver of power again. My silence was my answer all those times he pushed, threatened, begged. Now the law would speak where I once whispered, and it felt freeing. The officer handed me a copy of the order and explained what to do if he violated it. I nodded, eyes heavy, heart even heavier. I walked straight into a hardware store and bought new locks, deadbolts, window alarms. That night, my dad installed every piece while Julia watched the cameras I'd mounted. Nobody believed her when she first said he was dangerous, but now the proof screamed from every screen, and just when I thought things would quiet down, they didn't. Fabian sent flowers to my office with a card that said, "Still thinking of us." My coworker threw them out before I even saw them. I found out through HR. He wasn't trying to make peace. He was trying to remind me that he still had access, still in control. But I was deceived once, never again. So I showed him the proof. I sent a message through my attorney, clips of him violating the order, photos of him near my door, screenshots of messages post-restriction. His lawyer went quiet. I wasn't playing anymore. The truth came out, and the court issued a warning. Next time, it'd be jail. He never replied after that. But silence doesn't always mean peace. Some nights, I still heard things. A creak, a thud, a shift in the wind. Was it him? Was it fear? Maybe both. Trauma doesn't knock. It walks right in, kicks off its shoes, and stays a while. So I got a dog, big, protective, loyal. I named her Nova because she was a new star in my life. And the first night she slept beside me, I actually rested. Orlando started parking his truck near my window, just in case. He said, "Nobody messes with my neighbors." I didn't ask for that. I didn't have to. The people who stayed after the fire were the ones worth rebuilding with. And rebuild I did, slowly, with trembling hands and cautious joy. Because he broke me first, but he wouldn't be the last chapter in my story. He called one last time. Blocked number. I picked up without thinking. He whispered, "Please, I need you." I hung up. I didn't need to scream or explain. My silence was my answer, again. And this time, it echoed louder than any plea. He was just a ghost now, one I no longer fed. I started going out again. Short walks with Nova, visits to Julia's house. I smiled more, laughed without checking the room. Little freedoms that used to feel impossible. The world felt wide again, still cracked, but full of promise. And maybe that was the biggest win. I didn't just survive him. I outgrew him, but I knew this wasn't the end. There was still one more piece left. One final truth waiting to explode in his perfectly curated world, and he never saw it coming. It was 3:17 a.m. when the call came in. I jolted awake to my dad knocking on my door, phone in hand, whispering, "You need to hear this." Fabian had been caught trying to break into my old apartment again, this time with gloves, a crowbar, and a backpack full of photos of me. She finally left, but he never truly let go. And now, he was spiraling. He had ripped off the ankle monitor days earlier. Nobody knew where he was, just that his car was found near a hiking trail. But he wasn't hiking, he was hunting, for the version of me that still loved him, the one that no longer existed. He broke me first, but I'd turned into someone he could never control again. That scared him. And desperate men do stupid things. The police called it elevated obsession, said the file was being reclassified. Suddenly, I wasn't just a victim. I was a potential target. I was assigned an officer to check on me daily, and they installed a panic button near my bed. She planned it all, but not like this. I never imagined it ending in handcuffs, cameras, and the sound of a man screaming my name as they dragged him away. When he was captured, the lies unraveled fast. Turns out, Fabian wasn't just lying to me. He'd lied to everyone. His job was fake. His business trips were schemes. He owed thousands. And worse, he had a second phone. That's when I found the messages, dozens of them, to other women, mocking me, calling me naive, bragging that she thinks I love her. I sat there, jaw clenched, scrolling through the betrayal like it was a horror film starring me. One text broke me. She's just a stepping stone. Her dad's money is the real goal. I was nothing to him. Every kiss, every promise, every late-night whisper, it was all theater. And I had bought a front row seat. I collapsed on the floor, sobbing into Nova's fur. That was the moment I realized. I was mourning a man who never existed, but I didn't stay there. Grief came, but so did grit. I printed those messages, framed one, hung it in my closet with a gold plaque that read, "The day I woke up." I needed the reminder that betrayal isn't the end. It's the beginning of truth. And when the truth comes out, it cleanses everything, even if it hurts like hell. He begged her to come back. His mother said I ruined his life. She exposed him, I said, and that's exactly what I did. I released the full story. Messages, recordings, fake job resumes, to every mutual friend, every neighbor, even the HR department where his sister worked. No more hiding, no more shame. The truth came out, and I made sure it stayed out. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Mine was frozen, sharpened, and plated with precision. But here's the thing. I didn't do it to hurt him. I did it to free myself. I needed him to see that he never saw it coming, and that I was no longer the girl who waited in kitchens and cried in silence. I was the storm he underestimated, and just like that, it was over. Not the pain, not the memories, but the story. And from here, I write a new one, bold, unafraid, and owned by no one.